from a ballpark recreational facility, we need to look at investing in new lighting for all of our parks. I know in the past few years, Allen and Scroops put new LED lighting around some tracks. They put LED lighting in some parking lots, but I think and the high school's running into this too, to where the old ballast, I think you call it, Allen, it's like a whatever it is, it's a ballast. I call it a bulb. Those bulbs are becoming harder and harder to find. They're getting more and more expensive. So I think we need to get really serious about replacing those LED ballasts. What we got with LED ballast, I've got in 2019. I looked back at an email. I went, there's a company called there's two companies really that people use. One of them's called Musco, and I asked them for a quote just to get an idea, and it was a pie in the sky, meaning we could be sitting here and you work the lights off your app. So if you're in Birmingham and somebody says, "Hey, I need the lights on," it's just a simple click of a button, and those things turn off and on. And that was like $500,000. The other piece of that is that you can replace just the ballast with LED bulbs, and it's a lot less cheaper. So that was a pie in the sky deal. So I think it's worth us to pursue that just to see what that cost may be. Matter of fact, today I reached out to the guy that gave me that quote from Musco just to see what that quote may be, just exchanging the LED ballast. And he said he'd get back with me. There's another company, but even if that came to fruition, we'd still have to bid that project, I guess. But it's still get a good idea of what that cost may be. I know the high school is going through they're going to have new lighting at their fields by next fall. So, and we're going to run into an issue because we're replacing a lot of bulbs throughout the city. So the more we can get LED, the better. So, so as I get those quotes in, that may be something that we can afford, just replacing the ballast with LED versus a true fluorescent bulb today. So that's one of the things we talked about. The other thing that I sort of brought up was the restrooms specifically at Lewis and the complex on McDowell Road. A couple of years ago, I brought up the idea to the council, and right, wrong, or indifferent, they didn't think that was beneficial. I think because the complex up there is a public park, the Lewis softball field is a public park, and I guess there's a stipulation if you have a public park, you have to provide bathrooms. Well, I think the city needs to consider taking on cleaning those restrooms. And the reason I say that is because they're just not, oftentimes they don't get the attention I need. Like this weekend, I was cleaning the bathrooms at the ballpark at Saturday morning, and I get it. Those restrooms, and when they're not being used, the best thing to do is just to lock them down. You clean them and you lock them. But you get people who go up there and walk that track, or you get kids playing at the playground around here, or people with their children. There's nowhere to go to the restroom. So I don't know. I brought it up a couple of years ago, and I think the mayor at the time said, he shot it down and didn't want to do that. But just something to think about from a council perspective. If those are public parks, then I think we need to consider having a solution to keeping those things clean. Just my opinion. I don't think it'd be very expensive. It's just a matter of putting them on a cadence to where they're looked at every day. And that way, if they're that way, you don't have to lock them down.
Are there restrooms at Bolton also?
Yeah, and I brought that up at Bolton too. Bolton's not considered a public park, so in the event that somebody's there practicing, playing, or whatever, it's not. There's nothing really draws them to that particular place. But there's a restroom there to answer your question. Yes. So, but we talked about that last night, and in my mind, you've got 3 restroom facilities. 2 of them are considered public parks in my mind, where people would be there, not necessarily watching a game, practice, or whatever. So anyway, just a thought. I think that would be, especially, I think that'd be well received, because I get asked a lot, especially the park down here, when you bring kids there that you have, change a diaper, whatever, and they're locked. It just may be something they want to take a look at. So going back, and and this even came up in the Park and Rec board last time, and it's going to lead into a couple of the points that I've got. So a couple of years ago, probably 8, 9, 10 years ago, we talked about, I can remember as a young kid, every time I would come to a council meeting, we'd say, well, hey, we need these type of improvements, or we need these types of things done. The common answer from the city was no. And even Ashley mentioned that last time. We just don't have the money. So I think at that point, it became an issue to where, you say, for instance, softball, baseball, and football, they became self-reliant to where I don't think anything structurally wise, the city, I think, has been a good job from maintenance piece of it. I think Alan did a fantastic job. But from a facility piece of it, upgrades, capital improvements, I think that we probably lagged a little bit there. And we can see that based on at the softball fields down here. Like, for instance, at Bolton and Lewis, I think the fencing needs to be upgraded. We're putting new roofs on the batting cages just because the storm took those off. So the other thing I think we need to probably start looking at that in budget-wise, just making those upgrades to those things and be able to keep them up to spec, up to eyes or whatever. I think now, in the last few councils, we've been very, that's what I'm saying, open to those conversations. Which I think from many years ago, people just haven't asked. So I think now, leading into this council, I think we need to just make sure to try to make that a priority with lighting and with updates. I've reached out to a guy that does fencing work around town, does a lot of work for the board, just to see what type of money we're looking at to refence all of Bolton and all of Lewis, just to get those ideas. But I've talked to Ashley, and I know Al's making mention of there's additional backstop stuff you can do to maybe help with some erosion versus using a retaining wall and a net like it's Ashley's base softball field. So I think those types of things, we can just get a figure in our mind to see what that will cost. I think that would be, because if we're going to use these fields, I think they need to be kept up. And they just, right, wrong, or indifferent, they have been kept up, but there's a lot more that could be done on that. So I know, Al, we got the insurance money back we got an insurance claim on those roofs for those cages, and in the future, those should be updated pretty soon. So that'd be a replaced.
That'll last.
Yep. So hopefully that'll be done pretty soon. The other thing I want to lead into is sort of the other thing that we talked about, the upgrades to Bolton Lewis. We've had, a handful. There was a couple people that came to the Park and Rec meeting last night and presented the idea of softball combining with baseball from a usage piece of it and a scheduling piece of it. So we had a good conversation when you said that. I thought it was a pretty good conversation. I was there. So we had a good conversation there, and their concern really was too that what I mentioned to you about just upgrades to Bolton and Lewis, which I agree with, and the restrooms, and all that. And I think it turned into a good conversation. So what they'd like to see, the group that was there, was to mesh those scheduling together and those two to where the girls would have access to play at the complex, and in turn it would open up capacity for the boys to use this facility down here. So we talked about a solution. We talked about having a further conversation and seeing how that will work. The thing, and I just be transparent, the same thing I mentioned last night. I have logistically, I'm a little anxious of it, simply because at the complex now, the boys have roughly almost 200 kids, 200 people playing, and I think down here at softball they probably have 75 or so. Is that right? So and up there on the complex in McDowell Road, it's at capacity now. My fear is that logistically what that would look like. So I've got to see that on paper. I've been thinking about it all day, and we had a really good conversation about it. So I don't know the answers there. And I was thinking about this today, that I don't think and I was mentioning the meeting last night, I don't think it's ever a deal to where being equal. I don't think that's ever, because I think Ashley and I talked about it, Allie and I talked about it. It's about, we want to make sure that both in this conversation, that softball and baseball have equal opportunity. They're very well and they're thriving to when they get to the higher deal. So I don't know. I don't know what the best solution is there, but here's my fear that if all of that stuff is combined together, I think softball may have they may lose more than they gain. And the reason I say that is because if we're at capacity up there and we open up these fields down here, then the conversation changes of hey, we're gonna get equal opportunity to fields, and that's just Ricky's opinion. I know we'll talk about it more. So I have all the other things there. You know, they talked about the deal with the concession stand, which the concession stand is it's small baseball and softball America, and that needs to be. I think that's one of their concerns too, and I get it. So I think I go back to the conversation that we had tonight and last night about the upgrades to Bowman and Lewis. If I had a daughter, which I don't, Lauren tells you I needed one, but my wife, but I would, you know, in today's environment, I think keeping them separate gives everybody what they need and what they want. But I think it needs to be quality on both sides. I think that's the conversation everybody wants. So I want to make sure that whatever happens is the best thing. But I want to make sure that it down the road it doesn't come an issue to where hey so and so's not getting the right opportunity for these things, and when we had it before, then it was a lot better than what we think it is now. So I know that's a lot of rambling, you know. I don't, but like I said, we committed last night to coming up with a solution, as you mentioned last night. I mean before that you want solutions, not necessarily excuses. So I think that solution is there. I just don't know what it is. Because I called some people today and talked to them, and the people that I talked to outside of Columbiana said if the one they have combined today, if they said absolutely, if we had two different parts, we would love that for boys and girls because I think it gives the girls the opportunity to do what they enjoy and do the things they want, and you have the boys over here and do the things that they enjoy and the things they want. So there's pros and cons to both, but I think there's a lot more conversation going on there but I think it really starts at the city level and making sure that we update our facilities on a routine basis more than we have. And I'm to blame just as much as anybody in that because I've been on those panels. But so I don't know. But I thought it was a really good conversation. Would you agree, Allie? I thought it was a good conversation that we had. And I stayed there almost 2 hours. And I'm sure we'll revisit that conversation again. It's just finding the right fix and the right mix. It meshes with everybody because I know how fragile those frameworks can be. And so it's just about, you're not going to please everybody. It's just a matter of making the best things work. So anyway, you got any questions for me? I know that was a lot of babbling.
Any questions from anybody from the council?
Al, you want to add anything? Ash, you want to add anything for the meeting?
No, you covered
Well,
Well, I got a couple things. So what I think you need to do, in my opinion, is first and foremost, it's having quality facilities for all of our kids. That's the most important thing, male, female, it doesn't matter. So it's access to quality facilities for everybody. And so the question that I'd ask myself, I know that you have 200 boys playing, 75 girls, and if there were better facilities, would there be more girls playing? I don't know. If you look at our population mix, we have more females than we have males. Mm-hmm. So again, maybe the girls are not interested in playing softball, obviously, like little boys are in baseball, but who knows? I don't know. So the most important thing is a good quality facilities for all of our kids. That's number one. And obviously they need to be equal as much as possible. We need to make everything equal. What I would ask the board to do, because it was a lot put in there, you got the lightings, you got restrooms, you got fences, you got batting cages. Bolton, as I understand it, there's some sort of arrangement to where that has been provided to the city, that land, and the park was built. And that the city has to give it back at some point in time if we decide we're not going to use it for that purpose. So from it's as if it's a city facility as well.
Yes.
And so I don't think you need to exclude it.
No.
I'd like to ask the question about the batting cages. Are we just replacing the roofs? because they need repair otherwise.
Yeah, they gonna repair anything that's rotten or broke,
Okay.
put new metal on it, new tops and everything.
And there's some concern, I guess, about traffic and safety from crossing the road at Lewis and Bolton, et cetera, that, again, I think those things that we can do as a city, can talk about that. But what I would ask the rec board to do is kind of take a clean sheet of paper, if you will, start with a blank slate, and then all of those things that you believe you need to come up with, this is what I think we need, and some sort of rough estimate of what the cost is going to be. And then let's talk about funding. I've never been in a city or a community where a large part of the funding does not come from the leagues themselves, okay? And then there can be fundraisers, and then there can be contributions. So we need to look at how much money we think the league can provide, how much we think is a reasonable amount could be obtained through fundraising, and then how much you need from the city to increase the budget. But I think I'd like to get all of those things done. I really would. And I think, if you get the leagues and the rec board working together, I agree. I think you can come up with a plan and we can make this thing work.
Yeah, and I don't think it, from the things that we mentioned, I think the hot big ticket item that I think it would be anything, it would be the lighting. I mean, obviously that's, but you look at it years down the road, do the lighting investment today, does it help us down the road get more LED efficient and all that stuff in terms of the power bill? So, I mean, you're going to have a big impact up front.
Right.
So I think that out of everything that I mentioned, I think that's the piece that's going to be the biggest investment. But I think it's really the most important, energy efficient and just expense wise or whatever. The other things are just upfront capital improvements, and they're done after you pay for them. So I mean, and they they last forever. It's just keeping them updated. But yeah, as soon as I get the fencing quote back and hear back from the lighting guys, and I'll share it with whoever wants it, and then we'll go from there.
Dugouts at Bolton need to be bigger. Yeah, they're
Oh,
too
they're
small,
short.
they're short.
Mm-hmm.
Mud rushes in there, so anytime you have a rain, it's nasty. So we gotta figure that out. They just need to be bigger.
Yeah, I think the agreement on the Bolton deal, I think the same thing with the 500 Club. Allie may know more about it, but that land was donated, and I think it's for a specific purpose, and in the event that X doesn't happen, then it goes back to
Right.
the
Yeah,
original
it used to be the boys' field.
Right.
And actually, when the girls took Bolton over, when they built the complex, man, the girls loved it because Bolton was the nicest field in the county at that time. It really was. I mean, and credit, the boys had such support down there. I mean, it was great. And it's hard to have with the concession stand at Lewis have a game at Bolton because people aren't going to walk to Lewis to buy something to eat or drink. It's too far,
I think there's opportunity to look at things regarding the concessions as well. I understand that that's contracted as opposed to working with volunteers, but anyway, I think there's opportunities to take a look at all this.
Yep.
So
I think now's the time to do it, leading into the next budget season, see what we can and can't do, and get it done. Obviously, you want it done yesterday, but I think now's the time to do it.
it's okay. Any other questions for the rec board?
So before we move forward, is there any opposed to moving? I mean, I guess in general, do you have any objections, Mayor?
I do not. I do not believe that there is a specification as to how often you have to meet, other than in your charter. And so I think that the board could change that charter. I would always have the flexibility to have, to call a special meeting or something like that. But if you need to do it bi-monthly, quarterly, whatever it is. All right. Okay, before we go into the Boy Scout project, an issue came up about the cross-country track, and this was brought initially to Ricky's attention too. So if you could just generally describe what that issue is, and you can do the Reader's Digest version, that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to throw my 2 cents worth in, and that's never short.
Yeah. All right. So I guess last year, 2 years,
2 years
a
ago.
year and a half ago,
Mm-hmm.
the city got approached by doing a cross country track, having a cross country track for the school kids to use. The conversations went on, and then actually Julie Horton brought up the idea. We had a couple of conversations here in council meeting. Then that conversation really grew to having the county being involved, the Board of Education being involved, and the city being involved. So there's three parties there involved, and it involves Board of Education land behind the track by Elvin Hill. Long story short, the project ended up being, I think, about roughly $50,000, something like that. Something.
It was like 40 something.
Something. And the county ended up paying, I think, 25, and the city and the board ended up paying roughly 12 or something like that. So but from a, I guess, excavation piece of it, the county did most of the work. So it's a partnership between three bodies that got that track up and fully functional. Well, it got done. I think COVID hit, and then trees fell. I think till we had 2 hurricanes and a tornado and just the natural vegetation. So that has come back to where I think now that they want to try to start having meets up there. They've never had a meet up there. I've walked it a couple of times myself, but they've never had a meet up there. Anyway, we got approached to have that cleaned up. Well, in all this conversation and all this working, there was an MOA signed with Mayor Hanley signed it, Chad Schrogan signed it, and I think maybe it was Louis Brooks that he signed it. So all those bodies of MOA saying, hey, these are the things that will happen with this trail after it's developed. And there's a maintenance clause in there that says basically the city of Columbiana will be responsible for the maintenance of this trail. Well, in that MOA, if you read it, maintenance, and the mayor and I was talking about it for the meeting, maintenance is a big word. I mean, there's nothing really strictly identifies what the maintenance consists of. Is that debris? Is it brush? Is it trees? Is it whatever it is? So anyway, we sent an email, sort of brought that conversation back up. So I think what the mayor's going to lead into there is that that's probably going to need to be discussed a little bit more in depth and maybe even updated a little bit to where it gets the benefit of all three parties, because that's who's all involved. But I've said it ever since I found out the MOA was involved back in the fall. I think it needs to be more specific, and now we're having a conversation for the second time. So I sent that to the mayor and Charlene, and so he's had a chance to read it. So that's basically in a nutshell where we are today.
Yeah. So my 2 cents worth is an MOA is like a contract, and in fact they're identical, particularly if the MOA has certain binding provisions in there, like you will do this and you will do that. And it had in there that we would provide the money that we provided, and it had in there that we would provide the maintenance. And the mayor is authorized to execute contracts on behalf of the city, but that must be done with the approval of the council. And we went back and checked the records, and there was no council approval ever provided to execute that MOA, and so it's not enforceable. And to Ricky's point, he wasn't even aware until recently that there was an MOA. And so you say no, or?
I didn't know either.
So
I didn't even know the county had done the work.
So the point is I think, the city wants to support having that track there. It does potentially, obviously it benefits our students, at the schools, and also it's available as a walking trail or a running trail for anybody in the city. What we just need to do is, since the MOA is not enforceable, we need to get the parties together, redo it, and we need to better define the roles and responsibilities. I walked the track with Alan today, a lot of trees down, and then the coach, the new track coach, has expressed some concerns that the track is currently not runnable. And I need to understand what that means. What is his expectation? What is his requirement to make the track runnable? Because of the various storms we have, you can tell that someone has been in there and cut away a lot of those trees. And that apparently was the county, because it wasn't us. So clearly, I think even though that MOA said we were responsible for maintenance, I think the county's pulling their weight we just need to sort it all out, get the parties together and move forward and execute a new agreement.
Yeah, I think after probably it was probably after the first hurricane or the second one. It was one of the two in the county. I know because I talked to Kevin over there, and I think they did a lot of good work in cutting those trees. Because it busted up a lot of you saw the chain link fence that runs down the property lines, I guess, to the left. So it busted up all that. So I know the county has done a tremendous amount of work out there. And I think it just benefits every party if we just understand, hey, this is what we'll be responsible for on what cadence, and here's what to expect. Going back to the thing, I think there's some ditches, I think there were some overpasses that maybe the county built and put some pipe in there. Maybe it's washed out or something like that. So I don't know. But
the ones I saw were not washed out.
So,
but the point is maintaining those is another animal as well. Alan and I talked about that today.
And I mean, that I even saw today, though, the elementary school was using that. There's a piece when you go into that gate to the left, the elementary school was using that for like an outdoor classroom. Rob McElroy built some little platform and all that stuff out there. And they even used that, I think, even yesterday. So, I mean, it's even being utilized by the school there. It just needs to be, that way we don't run back into the issue of he said, she said, this is what you said you're going to do, this is what we're not doing. So I think that's beneficial for everybody the more we can get on the same page with that. I think they would be willing to have that conversation too.
So it kind of turned into a master's thesis instead of a reader's digest.
No more cliff notes.
Now, Alan said he ran that track today,
Okay.
and you're the witness.
Well, as I was going up the hill, I made the comment to Alan. I said, there might have been a day when I could have run up this hill. I'm not sure I could do it.
But not today.
All right, those days have passed. No other comments there as far as the cross country or questions from anybody? All right, Corey, so I think the floor is yours as far as this. We've got a presentation here, so you tell me when to click and I'll go to the next chart for you.
Hello, my name is Corey Cohen. I've been doing a project since 2018, or it got approved in 2018. And it's taking place at the Columbiana Recreational Building, which, when it was approved, before COVID and everything had hit, there have been a few changes since then, and I'm coming back to review over and get approval, as well as set some dates for actual installation over the beginning of summer. So,
Am I getting ahead of you? Okay.
at first the project was started as I had seen that the flag at the recreational building was far too close to the power lines, and also setting out that by flag protocol, all flags, American flags flown, or maybe even flags in general, flown through at the during night should be lit up. So I had planned to originally change this, and the one thing led to the other, and my plan ended up including new flagpoles at a new location and a sign with a plant bed, because the rec building hasn't had any identification since before Marianne. What I know.
No, I don't remember.
And it kept going on and on. New 8-inch numbers so that you can see the address numbers from the road. And then 2 benches for the front porch as well. And now we're coming in for the closing stretch for it. I need to let you all know about a change that I had made and a couple of requests. So here's the big change. At first, the sign was 4x8 in total size. Had black writing on a white background and a cursive and print mix and a scroll work at the top.
get mine.
And according to Mr. Scott Ellen, my design was a paper bag, which I learned meant generic. He said the size of the sign, it would not do well over time because of the coloring. White is notorious for becoming more yellow or old looking with time. He said the scroll work combined with the cursive makes it look for a busy sign that looks crowded. We began to go over detailed coloring, writing, designs. We worked a design we both like, and if you agree, we'll be putting it in together this week.
Oh, wow.
So we kept the same size and we reversed the colors. We changed some of the font style and size, and we lost the scroll work at the top and added the city steel.
Mhm. That's nice. I like that.
That looks great.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I think the one we have is an outdated seal of it.
It's a nice seal, though.
And then this is what it's supposed to look like.
So is your project including this too?
Mhm.
Cool.
Now the request for our is here. Please continue. As I'm sure you're all aware, right behind the island that we're putting this sign on, there is a power pole that is attached to nothing, leaning in the parking lot. And previously, Mayor Hamley had said he'd have it removed. With your permission, may I have it cut down? I'll have it cut as close to the ground as possible, and it'll give you one more parking space when completed.
Alan, can we take care of that?
I'll take care of that.
Okay, we're down. We ought to be able to take care of that. You know, that's one of those things where you look but you don't see.
Yeah.
You
Oh, that's
know,
me. I've never
we've
noticed that. Never
Never
noticed.
thought about that. So, but I think we ought to be able to take care of that.
It's blended into it anytime.
And we will report back to you when it is done.
All right. Removing of the old flagpole. We'll remove it and repair the grass. And do you want it returned, or do you want me to find it a new home?
Well, do you want us to take it down for you, or
I
do you
mean,
need help with that? Or do you want to do that as a scout project?
the original idea was to have it moved and remove it for safety reasons. So I think it would be best if we were to keep with at least some of the original idea.
So, my point is do you want the city to remove it for you, or is this something to where you guys need to do this for scout project credit or something? Because we can take care of that.
If y'all want to,
Okay.
you can.
And if there's safety issues because of proximity to power poles, we don't mind losing Alan.
I was not expecting that.
That was good though.
And the flagpoles that we are using have been donated by the American Legion. And they had requested a POW flag to fly. It would be an honor to include it, but I told them I must ask all of you first. Is that okay with you?
I certainly
Absolutely.
appreciate it. I don't know about the rest of you. I would be honored as well.
Alright. It's a large project, let's say. Funding's been interesting. We're almost there, and I'm ready to schedule installation. Weather pending, since school's ending and I'll be turning 18 very soon, my hope is to install everything between the dates of May 28th and June 6th. May 29th and 30th, I request space for a full crew. During the week, work will be limited to allow for activities scheduled. And June 5th and 6th, I will request space for a full crew to finish.
Okay. Now, what exactly does that mean, space for a full crew?
Full crew, all the vehicles, all the things that are necessary to actually get things like the brick.
And you'll be doing this during normal daytime business hours?
Maybe during the day, usually probably sometime in the morning to sometime in the afternoon.
Okay. think we can coordinate that. Obviously, it should help you out a bit if we remove poles. Okay?
Thanks for allowing me to speak tonight, and thank you for helping me earn my equal.
But yeah, we're happy to do it, and personally, I'm excited about the project. I think it's going to really dress up the rec center. And I had two nits, and these guys can shoot me down if they're not correct. Number one is we do have a different seal, but I think that's not a problem. We can take care of that as far as the signage is concerned. And I'm kind of a word wonk. Would we call it the recreation building or the recreation? The recreation center.
I've always known it at recreational center.
I don't know what I'm known as.
Rec building?
Everybody knows what rec.
City rec.
So, I mean, it's much next to me. You guys decide which you think would look best. Or is the sign already done?
It's going to be put together this week, probably, or worked on.
Do you want us to do some research and find out what it was called when it was originally built?
If you could, that would help. I'd appreciate that.
That'd be great.
We can do that research too, but I'm not sure where to even start, but we can certainly do it. So yeah, let's collectively do that. See if it's the recreation building or the recreation.
We'll
Maybe
go back
it was
to
the
the deed
original.
and
It was
everything
a
else and see how the deed was
We
drawn up.
Sure.
voted on what we wanted.
Ma'am, I'm working on the cat bus.
I still think that's a great name.
The what? The cat bus?
The cat bus, the Columbiana Area Transit.
Oh.
Instead of the trolley.
Corey, did you put together that PowerPoint? That's awesome.
With help on designs from her, because that's not my specialty.
It was a good job. You guys have got any other questions for Corey? So we will coordinate, and I think the person you need to be working with, I guess, is Alan. As far as, getting the poles down and making sure that we schedule everything so that you have access to so that you can do the work when you need to do the work.
And I can email you the new seal tomorrow.
I'm sure he has it, but they put that design together. It's been a little bit.
Okay.
Hope you have plenty of help.
All right.
How much, how are you on your funding? You were talking about that. Are you close or?
I think we were basically there.
Yeah, he's already spending a lot. You can show him the 8.
Yeah, here.
Scott's not doing it for free.
He has me working up there with him, and
Oh, you're learning how to make signs. That's good.
Non-paper bag, I take a lot more work, don't it?
here, actually right now, are the eagles and the lights that will be designed.
Oh, that's
I'm gonna pass
nice.
those down.
So the light's gonna be pointing down on the.
Yes, the eagle is going to be on top of the light,
Okay.
and the light's going to be
So
pointing down.
the solar light illuminates, that's great.
Those lights, consistently were somewhere like the
Like
third
this.
best.
Like that.
Solar panels.
Okay, cool.
That's cool.
There you
They were, everywhere we looked, those were consistently some of the best that we could find.
go. That's great.
That's great.
Not changing around everywhere.
Supposed to run up to 18 hours a day.
They probably will, being on top of a pole like that and away from trees, so. Okay.
You had one more question about fastening the benches to the.
Fastening the benches, wasn't that about, doing it as just something mid-meeting, not?
No, is it okay to fasten the benches to the?
Yeah, you'd better to.
Yeah, you would have to.
Yes.
Again,
They'll be gone.
again, we could potentially help you with that if you need help with that. It might even be best that you help with that. In the event there's any damage to the concrete or whatever. So.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any other questions, comments for Corey?
Good job.
Hey, good job.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
it
Thanks
was
a lot.
really nice.
All right. So, mayor's report. I'm not going to really add much to the FEMA and the SBA stuff. We devoted last meeting almost entirely to this. As you know, Ally live streams these meetings and then they're recorded and they are put on the city's websites. So if people want to learn what was presented about FEMA assistance for the tornado relief and SBA assistance as a result of the tornado, that is on our website. We also have documents that were provided to us by FEMA and the SBA on how to apply for the assistance, and that is on the website. And as Alan mentioned, we still have people who aren't pleased that we cannot take care of everything for them. There are things that are based on equipment limitation, human resources. He showed you his problem earlier with his staffing level. And there are issues with what the city can do with public funds, particularly as associated with private property. And so I'll just leave it at that, and we can address those issues individually with people when they come to the city. I will say one thing. I have said, and we will continue to do this for some period of time, if there is debris that falls within our policy, vegetative debris, that people can bring to the right of way, we are going to continue to pick that stuff up and take it away as best we can. Our equipment limitations will not allow us to pick up large, heavy tree trunks and stumps and things of that nature, but we are going to remove what we can. Again, construction debris is something that building materials and things like that are things that the city cannot pick up. Normally that is covered by people's insurance when there's damage to structures and housing and things like that. And I know that some people have been very disappointed with, I guess, what their insurance companies have been providing them in that case. And so it's leaving them with big bills to pay. And so hence the SBA presented their presentation about some very low interest loans that people can avail themselves of. There is one more thing that could potentially happen. And by the 25th of this month, assuming the county is able, the state and the county is able to meet the damage threshold requirements, there is the possibility that FEMA, which is currently providing only individual assistance, may also grant the state of Alabama public assistance. If the state gets public assistance, it's not guaranteed that Shelby County would get that public assistance. I'll reiterate that, but it is likely that I think that the county would get it if the state gets it. Last I heard, it wasn't looking good as far as the state being able to get the public assistance. If we are, I'll still hold out hope. If we are able to get it, then there would be some funds available to the city to be able to help with some of the things that we can't help with right now. So next topic is the American Rescue Plan Act. Charlene and I were at the League of Municipalities right before annual convention last week, and this seemed to be the big topic. Just before departing for the convention on May the 10th, guidelines came down from the federal government about what this American Rescue Plan Act would cover. It's 150 pages of guidelines, and there's still some fuzz in it. But it's basically these 5 bullets that are up there. The first 3, what we learned at the League is that it may be that municipalities like Columbiana may not be able to do those things because of certain restrictions in the Alabama Constitution and Alabama Code that would prevent municipalities from expending public funds on those types of things. And you can see public health expenditures for mitigating COVID-19 and stuff, addressing negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, including harms to workers, households. Right now, we're not allowed to provide public funds to households, small businesses, industries, things of that nature. But yet this money is coming down from the federal government to do this. So there was talk about, working with the legislature, working with the state, so that we could potentially use that. Otherwise, that help will have to come from the state. And replacing lost public sector revenue, I think Columbiana may have a difficult time being able to meet the thresholds required there. But the last two is provide premium pay for essential workers, offering additional support to those who have borne and will bear the greatest health risk because of their service in critical infrastructure sectors. This might be like first responders and things like that. There may be the possibility that we could use some of those funds for that. It's the last bullet where I think that we would have the greatest potential, and the amount of money was $843,000 has been allocated to Columbiana for the non-entitlement, as a non-entitlement community in Alabama. But basically that one is to invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, making necessary investments to improve access to clean drinking water, support vital wastewater and stormwater infrastructure, and expand broadband internet. Now, I highlighted stormwater and broadband because of the recent heavy rains and flooding that we had. I think it highlighted an issue that we have stormwater problems in Columbiana. And so there may be some opportunity for us to use funds for that. And then I've had people come to this meeting in the past, and I'm aware that we do have broadband internet connectivity issues around the state. Even though we can use money for that, you got to have a provider who's willing to do it. I've spoken to AT&T, and C Spire did a presentation at the league convention, and I spoke to their vice president. And the challenge is working with those guys. And so what we will have to do is we're going to have to go through that data of what we can use money for, understand it, and the city needs to come up with a plan, and that will be presented to the council, and then we'll decide what we will use that $843,000 for. As I said, there's some gray area in the data that they've provided us, so we will have to make sure that what we can do is allowed by the American Rescue Plan Act. We're supposed to get the first half of that $843,000 this month. I'm not so sure that that's going to happen, simply because they're still trying to sort through the details. And then a year later, we get the second half of that money. So it would be a fairly long-term plan that we would put in place to spend that.
Is it the type of deal where if you don't use it, you lose it again?
Mhm.
No, they just give
It's
it
just-
to you.
Well,
And
you
it's by
have until
population.
2024 to spend it.
Mhm.
You have to spend it by 2024.
But you have to show record that you spent it on one of those five.
Absolutely. And if you don't spend it on an approved thing, then the city could be liable to pay it back. And so that's why everybody's a little bit nervous about it, because the guidelines that came down, even though it's 150 pages, there's still some fuzz in there, some gray matter that we're going to have to sort our way through. Okay, so I just want to present that. Any other questions or comments from the council about that? I don't know that I am armed yet to be able to answer them, but I just want to make you aware of what we potentially could use the money for. Okay, next chart. We've got Memorial Day coming up. This is our last council meeting for May, and Memorial Day comes up the 31st of May, so I didn't want to get out of here without saying something about Memorial Day. Now this is a big deal to me, and I'll try not to get emotional. This is my uncle. That is Staff Sergeant David Fletcher Mitchell. He is also my namesake. And he was killed on January the 10th, 1945 in what is commonly known as the Battle of the Bulge in Belgium. This is his grave. This is at the Henry Chappelle American Cemetery in Belgium. He rests there with 8,000 other American souls killed in that conflict. And, you know, in addition to giving me his name, you know, Uncle David did things, as did all of these others that are represented by these other photographs, much, much more than give me his name. You know, he was able to make the ultimate sacrifice, as did all of these men and women, so that to defeat tyranny and oppression, and for the love of freedom, for the love of his country, for the love of his fellow man, and to make sure that everybody can live free and have the rights that they were endowed with by their Creator. He and all of these tens of thousands of other Americans have made the ultimate sacrifice. So we owe them a lot, and not only do we owe them a lot, but we also owe all these Gold Star families who have lost loved ones, who've lost mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, in the cause of freedom. We owe them a great debt of gratitude. And so what I'd like for you to do is keep that in mind as Memorial Day comes up and you're celebrating for the holidays. And what I'd also like to ask you to do is stand and join me in, if I can get that thing to escape, there we go, and join me in recognizing these brave men and women. And if you would, I would also like to ask that those of you who are veterans honor these folks by rendering a salute. I can't see because of Ashley's head here. So,
There you go.
thank you. Okay.
That's satisfying.
All right. Announcement. Allie.
All right, so Monday, May 24th is Shelby County High School's graduation. And then the 26th is the last day of school for Shelby County Schools. On the 31st is Memorial Day, and city offices will be closed, and there's no garbage pickup on Memorial Day.
Graduation at the high school, Allie?
Yes,
Football
yes,
field?
it is.
Yay.
At the stadium. So, Columbiana Main Street has decided to do something called Sunset Music and Movies on Main for the months of June and July. So in June, there'll be music on Main Street. And then in July, there'll be movies in the park. So it should be a really fun summer every Friday night in June and July, with the exception of Independence Day weekend. There'll be something happening on Friday night in Columbiana. So it should be a really fun summer. Music on Main, the 4th is Taylor Honeycutt, and then the Alan Tolbert Band on the 11th, and the 18th is the Divines. And then Liberty Day is June 25th and 26th, so that is coming up shortly. The 12th is Columbiana Cleanup Day, the 19th is Miss Liberty Day Pageant. So it's going to be a fun new month. June's going to be really full.
Okay, so we also have a new website, and I think Allie was going to try to maybe walk us through
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
So
we
again,
have
tell me where to point and click.
Okay, so we have a new website. If you have not seen it, it's the same.
recognized or more apt to recognize.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So it's cityofcolumbiana.com still, but all of the content and all the design is all new. So if you'll scroll down just a little bit, there are links at the top to our Facebook page and Instagram and Twitter, and to the YouTube channel where you can watch all of the live feeds.
Okay.
There are all these lovely little buttons to make it easier to find things. You can pay if you, where did the judge go? If you get pulled over and you maybe get a ticket.
That's Columbiana skyline. It's really
That's
growing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can pay your tickets there. You can find all the minutes and agendas for right now, City Council, but coming soon, it will be every board that Columbia has will have all their minutes and agendas posted there. So like right now it's planning and zoning and City Council, but soon, like beautification board, everybody will have their minutes and their agendas on the website. So that will be nice. We'll go back. One more time. These are all any kind of form that you could ever imagine, like if you want to apply for a job or you need a zoning request form. Before you would kind of have to dig for those things, and right now you can just click on forms and they are all there. Let's see. Then the city directory, if you don't know who you need to talk to, there's a list of folks and also all the boards and their city council's contact information. So you'll be able to call, like, their phone number will be on there and their email address as well. So.
Oh, this is cool. Everybody's going to want to go read all of our
Oh, yeah.
ordinances.
This is fun.
Knock yourselves out.
So
Okay.
these are the ordinances. So that's just, and if you'll click here to view, and you can find all of Columbiana's ordinances.
It takes you to our codified
Isn't that
ordinances.
amazing?
Have fun, y'all.
Yes, you can read for days.
Read your harsh content.
And then the last button links you to Old Mill Square, and this will be a new website soon as well. So we're currently working on getting that one done.
And that obviously will have links to the
Right.
Shelby County
Yeah.
Arts Council website,
Yeah.
as well as Shelby County and city, et cetera. So,
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
okay.
Good job.
Anything else?
I think that's it. And then I think if you scroll down a little bit more, there's like a place for news and the calendar. So everything's right there.
So here's the information about FEMA assistance for the March tornado. So there's lots of information there that people can get.
Right.
Can you scroll down just a little bit?
Here?
Oh,
Stay connected.
that's-
Oh, subscriptions and
Yeah,
e-alerts.
So you can, if you click on the subscribe button, you can enter your email address and choose, like, if you want to subscribe to, like, when Charlene adds the agenda, and you want to make sure, and it'll email you the agenda. If there's an emergency alert, you can get an emergency alert. So all of that, you can subscribe and get all the new information as it's added in real time. So that's really cool.
Okay.
Good job. I like it.
Is the Arts Council, I hope
Still
they'll
working
full
for-
capacity to their events yet?
I haven't talked to Bruce since all of those decisions were made, like last week.
They got a bunch of big
But
names
they
coming.
do. He was hopeful that they could do. I know that the symphony was not, but that was because of the contract with the symphony, and they did not want, to be at full capacity. But I think he's hopeful
Yeah.
for that.
Before we move on to comments, do we still have our mask sign on the door?
I would have to look at the front door.
To be honest with you, it's one of those things.
It's one of those things that I go by and I don't.
Okay. All right. Just curious. Okay, this is where we open it up to public comment. So if any comments or questions?
I do have a curious question. In front of Elvin Hill School, I am not opposed to the sign that tells about what's happening. What I am opposed to is the brightness of it. Is there any way that can be dimmed? Because during the summer, I'm afraid that walkers walking by there, Bill and I have driven by there quite a few times at night.
This is in front of Elvin Hill?
That's their sign.
That sign is like bright. And I'm just afraid that somebody walking at night, or with a dog or
We
a
can
baby
certainly
or
talk to
something.
the Board of Education about that.
Because I do know there is a sign ordinance.
Well, I don't know that our sign ordinance addresses
It does
these
The brightness.
digital
I can kind
signs.
of answer that question. We have the same digital sign, the same company is our, for our digital sign. And until recently, nobody knew how to turn the brightness down. But I have learned how to do that, and so I will share that information with the vice principal so that she can also.
I would just
Because
love
she did
that.
ask me a few times, how do you do it? I don't know how to do it, so.
Okay, well, good,
Just
good.
a matter of.
So if you can take care of that, now if that doesn't work, then like I said, we.
I
can
just think
certainly
it's for
take that.
safety reasons.
Oh, absolutely. Because I was complaining about the one on College Street, the Old Mill Square sign, it, you know, it blinds you when you're coming through the intersection there, so.
The only good thing, sorry, Mariah, is every time it goes blue, I think, oh, slow down, there's
So there you go. Leave it blue.
There's our speed bumps.
Yeah, that is the one good thing for Broward.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Have you been able to talk to the courthouse about moving the car show over behind the courthouse?
I have not. We talked about you guys getting together and talking about deconflicting your schedule. Have you had that come together yet?
Was not aware of that.
Well, I thought I'd
We
talk
need
to
to
you
move it
about it.
over there because that lot will only hold 130 cars. We were in Leeds this past weekend. They normally have a max of 200 cars. They had 300 plus.
Okay.
And everybody that we gave flowers to is coming. And if they do, we're gonna have cars out the gazoo.
Everybody's ready to get out.
All right. See if we can work out.
I need to know something as soon as possible because I got a DJ that
We can talk.
I've hired.
Yeah. Now, the DJ part of, that's where we talked about deconflicting between the entertainment that we have and
We need to
whatnot.
move over there and get as much space between us and the Old Mill Square band as possible,
Okay. Well, we'll
along
talk
with
to,
all of the cars that.
we'll talk to the county about that. Anything else?
No.
Anybody else?
Is there a date for your facility to officially open?
June the 1st. Downtown. Without any restrictions.
Do we have an update on what we are gonna drive when they start rolling?
I'm not sure what you mean by what. Oh, it's what
train.
vehicles that you're gonna drive?
Yeah,
Okay, we're gonna continue to drive those vehicles. We'll have to sort that out. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I've got one that maybe for Chief and Al. So I got a text today at the corner of Mooney Road and 47. Coming off of Mooney Road, look to your left, huge bushes.
Oh, yes, all this grass.
Can't get rid of it.
So I don't know. I told this individual that I'd bring, because for one, from a safety issue for you, I don't know how much it even applies to you, but maybe it more applies to a safety issue than anything else. But I told them that I would let, obviously, I think we've talked about this for a couple of years now, maybe at one time or another. But the picture that I saw, there's no way to see oncoming traffic.
You have to get
I
ready.
mean, unless you're really on the stop sign or really almost in the road, so I don't know, but I told them that I would let you know that.
They have trimmed those bushes back. They have even set fire to those bushes and tried to burn them.
And they come back.
And they keep coming back.
So I guess they should.
You
be
can't
careful.
kill that stuff.
They're
You
cool.
can't kill it.
What is it? Is it pampas grass?
Yes.
From bulbs.
Well, we were celebrating, I don't remember if it was the 4th of July and where we once lived, and we actually set our neighbor's pampas grass on fire with fireworks. So I think it was New Year's because it was dry. Okay, any other questions or comments?